So it's this little stone house, a little bungalow, and it looks like something out of a Harry Potter movie. And it has these little rickety stone steps, and the deck was made out of this old rotted wood. And if you stepped strategically in the wrong place, you could lose an ankle. But it was super cheap, and it was 1 mile from campus where I was about to start graduate school. So I jumped at the chance to live in this tiny magical place. I had just left an engagement in Albuquerque. I had found the most perfect husband material. This guy was awesome. We were together for a long time. We played really well together. We hiked all the time. We rode our bicycles everywhere. He was awesome, and he gave me a ring, and I didn't know what to do with it. I knew something was missing. I couldn't tell you what, but I kept having this reoccurring nightmare that I was stuck in cement in the narthex of the church where I grew up in Worcester, and I was in a wedding gown, and I could not take a step down the aisle. And one day I had the same dream at my grandparents' house on the Cape, and I woke up sweaty and distraught, and I told my grandmother, who was so awesome, about the dream, and she said, well, for goodness sakes, don't marry him, which was the first time someone had said that. I had awesome friends that said things like, if a guy loved me as much as he loved you, I would run down the aisle. And other friends that just said, like, these kind of guys don't exist anymore. So I had tried to tell people there was something missing that I think is important when you're going to marry someone. And I got all kinds of helpful advice. Like one of my roommates who was this lovely Jewish girl, and she only dated guys from J-Date, and she said, the problem is you're not dating Jewish men because Jewish men are taught like really young, like you keep women happy in and out of the bedroom, and like they're just programmed that way, and so you should date Jewish men. And I was brought up Baptist, and I was progressive Christian. I knew that wasn't going to work out. And then I had another friend who's really fancy from the West Coast, and she was like, you just have to go to Victoria's Secret. Like, you just walk in there and buy whatever you think looks good, and that just solves all the problems. And I was like, don't think so. So I did the logical thing when you're 30 and not married, and I decided to go to graduate school, which was great. So I had moved from Albuquerque to Seattle to get a master's degree, and here I am in this awesome little bungalow, but it came with 2 roommates, of course. And one was this cool guy that had a PhD in computer science, but he had literally run off and joined the circus, so he just used the room as a place to store his stuff because it was cheaper than a storage unit. And then the other one was this awesome, introverted, quiet woman who was doing a postdoc at the same university where I was about to start grad school. And she was really she was just chill and introverted, and I'm sort of an extrovert and sort of always full of nervous energy. So we kind of balanced each other really well, and we started hanging out. And I was a little intimidated because she was super brilliant. She had gotten a PhD at Stanford, and she was like doing her second postdoc, and I was kind of like, I'm a new master's candidate. And but I realized we could find common ground when she asked me one day where nurses come from, which I was a nurse, so I was like, we go to college and come from where everyone else comes from. We get a degree and become registered nurses when we pass boards. And and I was like, oh, okay, so we can hang out. Like, it's okay, I can hold my own with this woman. So she was cool. Like, we did the new roommate thing. Like, she taught me the bus route, how to get to the university for classes a mile down the road. And she helped me find a dentist because I was new to the West Coast. And she helped me get... So they had this awesome gym at our university, but you couldn't get a locker there unless you were a postdoc or a faculty member because there's a gajillion students. And so she let me have access to her locker at the gym, which was like this incredibly intimate experience for me. And it was so cool to be able to go to class and not have to carry like the big canvas bag with all your sweaty stuff. So I knew we were getting close. So we started going to Starbucks a lot. So in Seattle, there's a Starbucks on every corner, like Dunkin' here. And so we both love coffee, and we would hang out at Starbucks all the time, like before class, after class, whenever we could. And while, women in coffee shops often do, we like got really deep in the dirt right away. And I told her all about the engagement and all that drama and like ending it. And she told me all about like having 23 roommates over the course of her like extensive graduate career. And we just really started to enjoy hanging out to the point where when I wasn't with her, I was like, oh, I wish we were hanging out right now. And that was a little uncomfortable for me. I'd never felt that way. I'd had a lot of great girlfriends, but I never had felt such a longing for someone like that. And then I would leave class, and then her lab space was like in the adjacent building, so I would go over to her lab, like no matter what time of day it was, and I would just like pop in the lab, and she would just look up from her computer and like shut it down and be like, "Let's go get coffee," and I was like so joyfully happy about that. So all these confusing feelings just were really stirring up a lot. So I started running, and I would run Green Lake in Seattle, which is this 3-mile loop near our cute rental. And I was sort of running away from these really intense feelings I was having, and also running because I was so overwhelmed by how amazing I felt and how magical this felt to feel this way about another person. It was hard because I'm really close with my parents. They're here tonight. They're so awesome. And my siblings are amazing, and they're so awesome, and they're here tonight. And I was really close to my grandparents before they passed. And I didn't grow up knowing queer people. I knew what people said about queer people, and I didn't have any role models that were positive around that. And that makes me sad even now. But I was terrified of losing this incredible relationship. I knew that my parents loved me unconditionally, but it's really scary when it's something very new that hasn't been tested. So I, did the logical thing again, and I called the guy that I had been engaged to tell him about all this. And he was like, "Aim, you're so not gay. We were together 6 years. Like, I promise. Like, I think, girls do this. They just don't talk about it." And I was like, I don't know about that. But and then I called a therapist that I had talked to a lot in Albuquerque about all this angst with the engagement. And she was like, "Yeah, it's just, great news. Glad you figured it out. Like, thanks for letting me know." And I was like, "Please, you've got to give me more." So she did say, coming out is not graceful, and just really be kind to yourself. And that was actually the most helpful advice I got. So I finally told the roommate, and it was really awkward and bumpy, and a lot of tears and a lot of like, I feel like I'm in high school again. And it was really intense. But, she had 23 roommates, and I was her 24th, and she married me. And it's been 17 years. And she and I have had 2 beautiful baby girls that are now teenagers that we just adore and can't believe how much love we can pour into 2 children. And my life has turned out better than it ever could have been imagined. So there's some pride in that. Thanks.